Hi everyone, welcome back to Follow the Winklers channel. This will be part 2 of a series of videos about living in the US. I've been here by now for almost 6 years, and in this video I will focus on the medical system in the US. How is it different from countries like Russia, Czech Republic, Switzerland? These are the countries I've been living before, so we will compare some things. It can be a big shock and kind of a frustration in a way when you get to the US and start to figure out how the medical system works here, because especially if you've come from such countries like Russia or Czech Republic or other Eastern European countries where the medical system is often supported by the government, you know, this totally commercial system in the US can be quite overwhelming and kind of just welcome to 100% capitalism. It's different, it's more complicated, it's more expensive, and you need to invest some time into studying the system. This year was the first year when somehow we got connected with insurance broker, because we had to change insurance, and our friend advised us, the broker, who could help us to choose kind of a different insurance and get a better plan. And this was kind of eye-opening, because the insurance broker can be so helpful with regard to, you know, what insurance covers, to help you with the bills, to get you on the best plan. If you have a chance at some point actually to choose a broker and to work with a broker, my advice is that it's a very good idea. So my feeling about the prices in the medical US system is that they're extremely high, and it's not even it's just more expensive than other countries, but it's 3, 4, 5, it can be 10 times sometimes more expensive in other countries. And that's, in a way, you understand that the service just could not cost what it costs, because the real cost of this is just like so much cheaper if you take just an average consultation with a doctor, or like the average ultrasound of, you know, something. Every part of the system, I guess, needs to get its piece of price, like a doctor, a hospital, a pharmacy, an insurance company. Unfortunately, this created a feeling of the system being just a huge balloon, and that the system doesn't work for the people, but the system actually works for the interests of the participants of the system. So for instance, I need to get to a neurologist because I have issues with my neck after a visit to chiropractor. Long story short, but you know, I'd like to check something, and I asked my family doctor to send me to a neurologist. And first of all, she told me, well, I'll send you to a neurologist, but you know, it will be a while until you get an appointment because it's complicated. I'm like, all right, I'll anyway try. And I called, and they tell to me, well, you'll have your appointment in July. And here we are in March, and my appointment is July. I'm like, how is it even possible? And then for sure it'll cost me some additional copay, not to mention that I already pay for insurance. And then I went to the internet and checked, all right, you know, I'll be going to Moscow summertime, so how much it will cost me there to get like a ultrasound scan of my arteries and to get a neurologist visit. Even if I go to the private clinic in Moscow, just to save time, just to make everything faster, in the private clinic, I'll just pay, you know, $100 maximum for the consultation with a neurologist, for the ultrasound of my arteries, for everything. This is like such an affordable price. Another thing which I find pretty irritating is that I find the system very non-transparent. For instance, my daughter has an operation on her arm because she broke 2 bones and the bones moved. She had an operation where they would straighten the bones and put them together. So the bill was very general, like without specification, without detailization of the procedure. Like, let's say anesthesia, $500. What did they use? You know, what quantity did they use? What, you know, medicine did they use? So in other countries, you have a very detailed specification of the treatments which were used. So you can actually understand, all right, this is what this costs, and this is the price, you know, of this procedure. Here, very often, I come across just kind of a general final price. And I guess, you know, either I have to get back to the hospital and really ask and request for the, you know, very detailed bill. Practice is just to send you the bill with the general description. So you never see the real price. Pharmacy thinks the injection they use, because it's all general. And when you come to the doctor also, it's not like you can see kind of the price of like ultrasound or this analysis or something like this, because the price will be always different depending on your insurance, on your coverage, you know, on your plan. This is what it is, but I wish it could be more transparent. Another interesting thing I found here, because all parts of the system are kind of separated and private. There are doctors and it's their business and they charge by themselves. There is hospital, there is insurance, clearly there are like separate anesthesiologists. So when it's a little bit bigger production in the medical system, like operation, let's say, then you get these bills from like all the separate parties, like the doctor, different bill from anesthesiologist. It can be quite not systematized, because you thought you paid everything and then oops, there is a bill from X-ray, and then you think you're done, and 2 months later there is like a bill from anesthesiologist. The system is complicated. For instance, when I lived in Switzerland, the medical system is kind of a little bit similar to the American one. It's also commercial. I would say much more boutique than in US, because well, Switzerland is by itself a boutique country in the first place. So it's little people living in the country. It's a small country. It's a lot of private doctors. But interestingly, the system, I think, in terms of billing is organized a different way, meaning actually get a bill from like a hospital or from the doctor. You actually do pay, I think, the full bill first, and then you send it to insurance, and then insurance kind of checks everything and they send you kind of the rest, which you didn't have to pay. I every time got like the one bill only, which was helpful, instead of like having this 1, 2, 3, 4 different bills. It was a different way to manage that situation. So we covered the price, the untransparency, billing challenges, but there is always something more. Within this last 6 years being here, I've gone through a lot of good doctors, a lot of good people. Most doctors are decent and good and professional. However, I've been in a few situations where the doctors clearly were prescribing to me or advising me something which not necessarily was good for me. Like I was in a situation when I twisted my ankle and my feet hurt, and I just actually came to America. Then I didn't have insurance, but I had to go to the doctor already. And one doctor told me, we keep doing this, but if it keep bothering you, we'll operate. We can operate, we can just remove that little bone, and it's an easy operation, you'll recover fast, so it's all good. And I'm like, all right, interesting. I definitely wasn't ready to pay $1,000 for operation. But interestingly, like a month later, I just decided to take a second opinion from a different doctor who looked at the same feed, and she said the opposite thing. She said, oh, no, you don't need an operation here. This is not an easy operation. The recovery will be pretty challenging because it's a feed and you use it every day. And I'm like, oh my God, thanks goodness that I didn't go with that operation in the first place, because these are like two separate advice. And my feeling was like the first doctor was commercially interested in me as a patient, let's operate, she'll pay for that and she'll get better. And it's not her problem how I recover, right? I had a good dentist, and she told me to come back in a month or so to work on one cavity. And then, she retired, she was replaced by another doctor, and I came to him and he said, oh, that needs a crown. We'll work on the crown. And I said, well, I'm not ready for a crown. I had a consultation with the doctor, and she said just that it's a cavity. So I don't want a crown, because I actually had the issue before with the crown where my body wasn't accepting the crown easily. I had to get used to the crown for several months. It was a project, so I was definitely not interested in the crown. But he was actually pushing for the crown because, the crown would cost much more, right? I would pay for the crown $500 here in the US instead of maybe $150 to $100 for cavity. Eventually, he did treat it as a cavity. Just because I questioned it, I insisted, I told him I'm not doing a crown in this office. This is what can happen. You can have a treatment which you don't really need. If it's a little more complicated situation, if it's a little more challenging health issue, which needs, to be treated this or another way, if I'm not really confident in the decision, in the doctor, I always search for a different opinion. I always go for a second opinion, which is also not easy in this country, because sometimes and very often to get a second opinion of the different doctor, you need to pay again because you go to a different specialist, you need a referral or you need a copay. In my opinion, it's worth it if it considers some serious health issue, because again, unfortunately, you can be prescribed or ordered an operation or something which not necessarily you need, but because, you know, the doctor is commercially interested. What happens, for instance, in the government-focused medical system is that they usually don't prescribe you something which you don't need. They don't get anything for that, you know. If they prescribe you a drug which you don't need or a treatment which you don't need, I mean, they personally don't really get anything themselves financially from that move. So usually they just will prescribe you what you actually need, and that's it. I think I've covered a lot of challenges of the medical system in the US. Clearly, unfortunately, it's not perfect, but there are a lot of good things about this too. Something which I found interesting for myself when I came here and I started to read reviews about the doctors is that many people write about the bedside manner. And first I was like, bedside manner? Like, what is it about? But then I realized, all right, this is how the doctor is treating you, how he is asking you about your symptoms, you know, how he is like soft and comfortable and sensitive, professional, you know, about like describing your situation or giving you advice. And for me personally, I mean, most important that the doctor is professional. Sometimes the doctor can be rough, and sometimes the doctor can be very strict, and he just tells you kind of the truth. I mean, it's probably nice if he's a nice person. My preference and the top of the list for me would be always the honesty of the doctor and how professional he is. Like, I don't come to a doctor just like to get a nice kind of a conversation. I can absolutely prove that many people in this medical system in the US, I think they're very polite. They try hard. I think, you know, the nurses are very good. They probably sometimes question to doctors, which are in a rush. They spend a little time. Sometimes you feel like it's a factory. You come and you need to leave soon. Nurses and assistants, I think they're very sweet. They do their job very well, and I appreciate it. I think the great part of the American medical system, which I didn't really experience myself, but I've heard it from some people, especially who had some more heart conditions like cancer or kids with autism disease, is that the research and the progress of the medical system in the US is very big. So these people could have opportunity to use some of the most progressive medical technology and treatments which probably they couldn't use in the countries from which they came. So some of them really said like, oh, I'm probably alive after my cancer just because, you know, they treated me here in the US. In my own country, I would already be dead. Parents with autism said that they came here specifically, for instance, to California, to the US, because here there is a bigger research in terms of autism. These kids have more opportunity to be treated in the right way. There is more technology. There are more doctors who focus on this type of diseases and symptoms with kids. This is great, and hopefully the industry will develop further in creating more treatments, having even more progressive technology, and for sure we can only hope that it will be accessible to more people. I think I've covered most of the things which are triggers to me in the medical US system. I try to be pretty objective. Like, if you look at the most rating of the medical systems in the world, the US is usually in the 10, but never at the top. You'll have like such countries as Sweden, Germany, France, and other countries kind of being at the top of the list. For the quality, for the services, for the level, for the kind of range of medical services, which again proves a little bit that, yeah, the US medical system has some challenges, and hopefully they can be overcome, and hopefully they serve more the people than the system itself. In any case, my position lately is that in any kind of a medical system, you need to start becoming your own advocate. So the system will help you with some things, but not with all the things. You need kind of to read a lot about health, to educate yourself. For instance, if I go to the doctor here and I already have some issue, actually try to read about it in the internet a little bit, like what could it be, you know, what do these systems, you know, tell me about. When I meet the doctor, at least I have some understanding or some kind of feeling about what it could be, and then the doctor either proves it or, you know, finds something else or explains me better, and I also have some questions for the doctor. And nowadays, when the medical systems are overloaded, they're challenging, we need to educate ourselves. We need to pay more attention just to our own lifestyle, our own nutrition, our own movement, not necessarily rely on every time on the fact that the doctor will help us. In a way, this living in the US by itself actually brought me this idea that I need to focus more on the health. Being unhealthy is just super expensive in the US. Being unhealthy will cost just a lot for your wallet. So what you need to do, you need to start focusing on how to be healthy yourself. You need to try to eat better. You need to, move more. This will be good for you. This will be good for you, for your wallet, for your life. And this is what you are responsible for. With this, let's wrap it up. I hope you liked this video. I hope it was interesting. If you like this video, put like and subscribe to our channel for the Winklers. The goal of this video was not to show the medical system in only the negative light, but kind of to highlight the challenges of the system and what you can expect from the system and how you can make it easier for yourself. For instance, if you've just arrived to the US or if you're thinking to move here, you'll know what to expect. In the next video, I plan to talk about the educational system. We have 2 kids who've gone already through American preschools, who are now in American elementary public school, and this is one of my favorite topics as a mom. So see you next week with the comparison of the educational systems in the US, in Europe, and in Russia. Thank you. Bye-bye.